What's up guys, my name is Ace, and welcome back to a series that I started in Black Ops 2 and I haven't really done since then, and it was actually a very popular series, and it's called How to Dominate. In this series, I analyze how I find consistent success while playing a particular game mode, mostly solo, but this can also apply to team play. In today's episode, we're going to be analyzing how to dominate Domination. Let's get into it. Alright guys, so starting it off, the first thing to know about Domination is this game mode is all about map control. Now, what map control is, just in case you aren't aware, some people are new to the game and they don't really understand the concept of map control. It's basically the area of the map that your team effectively has complete control over, and there aren't going to be any enemies in that area. So just bringing up a quick example of this on the map Riot, we have the red team and the green team. Who would you say has more map control in this particular situation? Well, if we were to basically draw a line of where that map control is, you can see the red team is controlling a much larger portion of the map than the green team. The red team has map control, and they want to hold this map control. If they push in too far and push in for too much map control, that will suddenly flip the spawns for the green players, and the green players will start spawning behind them. This will completely ruin any sort of map control that they had, because now they have green players all over the map. So this is what map control is, and this is what you want to work towards the entire game, is map control, rather than just trying to capture every flag in sight. So a big thing with map control is you don't want to jump on a flag when you don't have any map control or any team support with you. If you're pushed up all alone, you're the furthest one up on your team, like up on the map, all your teammates are way behind you, you don't want to be just jumping on that B flag trying to capture it all by yourself. The enemies will know exactly where you are, at least within that capture area, so it's quite easy for them to find out where you are, and they will kill you because they have the map control. And there will be multiple enemies against you, and they know where you are. You don't necessarily know exactly where they are. So it's usually just a really bad idea to hop on a flag when you don't have any map control or team support. If you aren't patient with this, you could end up in what I call a feeding loop. This is where you're essentially feeding the enemy team kills and score streaks and points by essentially jumping on a flag all by yourself. They kill you. Very easily for that matter, because there's multiple enemies and only one of you. So they kill you very easily. Now you're all the way back at spawn. Now one of your teammates was pushing up just behind you. He's all alone now. As he pushes towards a B flag, they kill him very easily. Now he's coming off spawn, and at that point you're already pushing up and trying again all alone. And this is a feeding loop. Whereas if you and your teammate push together, now you're suddenly a force that's a lot harder to deal with for the enemy team. So push with your teammates and push with map control. So what happens if you are the only one on your team that's pushed up towards the B flag, for instance? Well, what I like to do is create sort of a buffer zone surrounding that flag. So I'll push up maybe a little bit past the flag and I'll just kill some enemies. Or I'll just clear off the area surrounding that flag and the popular camping spots near that flag. I'll try and pick those enemies off, and usually they don't expect it coming. They expect people to just jump on the flag. So they don't really expect you to push past that flag to get some kills. By the time you get a couple kills, usually you'll have some teammates that are now pushing up towards that flag. You've created a much safer area around that flag by killing a bunch of enemies, and you now have map control. Now is where you want to jump on the flag with your teammates. So always remember in Domination, map control comes first, capturing the flag comes second. I see way too many people that just throw their body on the flag blindly without any team support or map control, and they just feed the enemy team streaks. Don't be this guy. Now the second point I want to cover in this video is that capturing flags all game doesn't necessarily mean that you're playing the objective effectively. I run into guys all the time that think they are just the best at the game and they're the best objective players because they got 5 kills, 30 deaths, and 15 captures. They think they were the #1 player on the team because they got those 15 captures, even though they fed the enemy team kills all game long. Now there's nothing wrong with capturing flags. Capturing flags is a good thing, but pushing for a triple cap where you hold all 3 flags, this is a bad thing in a close game where the outcome is unclear. Now the reason for this is spawns are generally attached to the flags that you hold. If you haven't seen how spawns behave in Domination, you're not too sure about that, and you haven't seen my video on it, I will leave a link to that in the description below. It'll explain that in much greater depth. But essentially, spawns are attached to the flags that you hold. If you don't hold any flags, so the enemy has triple capped you, you can pretty much spawn anywhere on the map. What this means for the team that is triple capping is now there's suddenly enemies all over the place and you have no idea where they're going to be coming from because they're spawning everywhere. This is a bad thing for your team. This completely ruins map control. You have no control over the game and you lose all control over the situation. The enemy team now has the advantage and has the element of surprise on you. So don't triple cap if you can avoid it. If you really need to make a comeback, like you're way behind and you have to triple cap in order to win, then absolutely go for it. Also, on the other end of that, if you have complete control over the game and you have absolutely no chance of losing that game, or you're very confident you're not going to lose that game, and you're getting kind of bored, absolutely go for that triple cap as well. I do this quite often. When I know I have complete control over the game, I'll go for that triple cap, get as many score and points as I can, and just get my score streaks up that much faster. When you're in a close game though, especially if you're against a clan or something, never go for that triple cap. It's bad for your team. You're not thinking ahead when you do this. So don't be that guy that just blindly throws his body on the flag all game without thinking about the consequences of throwing your body on that flag. I actually played with a guy last week who was really talking trash to the rest of us on the team because we were against a clan. It was a very close match and we finally got a 2-cap. We had control of the map, we knew where the enemies were spawning, and we had control over them. This one guy, being the objective player that he is, pushed in for that triple cap, captured that flag, the enemy spawn flipped out, they ended up getting this, the jump on all of our teammates, they shot us all in the back, we all ended up dying, now we ended up being 2-capped, and we were trapped in our spawn, and we lost the game because of it. He had no idea that he single-handedly lost us the game by going for that triple cap. So think about the consequences before jumping on that third flag. Now I talk about triple capping being a very bad situation, but what's even worse is when nobody is trying to capture a flag when you only hold one flag. So I do kind of rag on that guy for pushing too hard for capturing objectives, but I'm even harder on people that don't make any attempt to capture a second flag when they only hold one. If you're only holding one flag, you better be trying to work towards capturing a second flag. This doesn't necessarily mean to throw your body on that flag, but push up, get map control around that flag, get kills that actually matter that are near that flag, and work to get that flag captured. If you aren't working to get that second flag captured when your team only holds one, then go play team deathmatch. You're in the wrong game mode. Always play to win first, and then play for your kills and for your stats if you care about that. If you want to play for your kill-death ratio, that's great, as long as we're already holding 2 flags. If we aren't holding 2 flags, I expect you to be working towards earning that second flag capture. So getting into some more specific things about domination, let's talk about score streaks. Now we first have to really think about what we're trying to accomplish when we're trying to dominate the enemy team while playing solo. So while I'm playing solo, I don't typically think I'm going to earn all the really high streaks in order to dominate my enemies, because I'm not going to earn these streaks every single game, and therefore most of the time they're not doing anything for me. Instead, I like to run the lower streaks, and I like to loop through them constantly throughout the game. I want to be putting streaks up all the time and constantly putting pressure on the enemy team. This is how I dominate the enemy team while I'm playing solo. So I really like to run like a UAV, just a standard UAV. That helps my team out, helps us get a little bit of momentum and map control. Bombing run, just because it's really annoying to the enemy team because it often gets a fair number of kills. Plus I can attack and defend flags with it. The aerial assault drone with the AI attachment and rockets typically, this is still a relatively lower streak, so something I can earn comfortably pretty much every game at least a couple times. This one puts a lot of pressure on the enemies and can distract them while they try to shoot that little thing up in the air. It's actually quite difficult to shoot those aerial assault drones, I find. And then I like to use System Hack. Even since System Hack has been nerfed, it's very effective for really getting on your enemy's nerves, and also they basically lose a lot of their coordination. They can't really see where their teammates are, they can't see where the enemies are because they no longer have a mini-map. So the System Hack, I find, can be very useful as well in domination if you're trying to dominate as a solo player. Now, if I'm playing in a party or I'm playing with a full team, I will absolutely go for that fully upgraded paladin or something like that to dominate, because I know we are going to comfortably win most games anyway. But when I'm playing solo, I prefer to run those lower streaks and just loop through them constantly. Alright, so before we wrap up the video now, I want to move on to just a couple little miscellaneous tips. The first one is what I like to call the bouncy capture. Now, this isn't going to work on every single flag in the game and in every single situation in the game, but it does work sometimes and it can be very effective. So I'll typically do this when I find a flag that doesn't have any cover while capturing it. So a good example of this is actually like the B flag on Instinct. There's really no cover while you're capturing the flag. Most people will just lay down on the flag and wait for enemies to come around the corner. Instead, I like to just constantly double jump while I'm capturing that flag. You won't basically lose the capture if you're way up in the air. As long as you're still straight above the flag, you'll continue to capture that flag. And now when an enemy comes around a corner to challenge you, he's typically looking for guys that are on the ground just laying down motionless. Instead, he's going to run into a guy that's bouncing all over the place, and he's going to have a hard time getting on target and staying on target while you're bouncing all over the place. And typically, you know exactly where he's coming from. Usually, there's only 1 or 2 areas to expect enemies to be coming from. So you can really lock on to where he is, and he can't lock on to you because you're bouncing everywhere. So usually this gives you or your teammates enough time to kill that enemy because he's going to be distracted by the guy that's bouncing all over the place. So I find this can be very effective in certain situations. It's not going to work every time, but it does work sometimes. Now finally, one thing that I'm still surprised a lot of people don't pick up on is when you're capturing a flag with a teammate or maybe 2 teammates, be aware of where those teammates are looking, and if it makes sense, try to look in a different direction. Oftentimes, like I just said, there are 2 directions that an enemy can come from while you're capturing a flag, or 2 very likely directions. If your 2 teammates are looking at one of those directions, it's probably a good idea for you to look in the other direction and lock down the other side. I see way too many times people will look all in the same doorway because that's the most likely place for an enemy to be coming from, and they fail to recognize the less likely place. Then an enemy just comes through there and wipes them all off the flag. So just be aware of that little thing. So that's going to wrap it up for the very first episode of Advanced Warfare: How to Dominate. I hope these tips are able to help you get a little bit of a better handle on how to play Domination effectively and how to win more Domination games. If you enjoyed the video, a like rating is always appreciated, and don't forget to subscribe for more if you haven't already. I'll talk to you guys next time.